Welcome to the City Current Show, powered by Hagen-Botham Insurance and Financial Services.
This show focuses on sharing good news and powering the good in our community. Now here's your host, City Current CEO, Jeremy Park.
Welcome back to the City Current Show, powered by Hagen-Botham. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference and powering the good. And that's why we're excited to be with Sydney Ball, founder and CEO of Ballpoint Business Solutions. Sydney, how are you doing?
Good morning. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're going to talk about entrepreneurship. We're going to talk about leadership, social impact. We have a lot to discuss, but let's start out a little bit with your entrepreneurial journey because you started early on with flip-flops. And so give us a little bit of your backstory.
I did. So I started my entrepreneurial journey when I was 10 years old, and I started making flip-flops. By happenstance, made a pair of flip-flops, turned into a business that I ran through graduate school. So loved it. I learned so much. My parents were true supporters, but also made me go along in the entrepreneurial journey. So they made me meet with the business owners. They made me meet with the suppliers. They made me meet with the accountants. And so I'm really grateful for that experience because it taught me what I wanted to do and how to become an entrepreneur. They were there to support and encourage, but made me have the meetings along the way and made me manage the business along the way. So that by the time I got to college, I realized, okay, entrepreneurship is a path I want to go down, but I felt like I had the experience to be able to build upon it. So if you think Etsy before Etsy was essentially the business. And so I sold at gift retailers and online across the Southeast back in the day. So it was a great experience. I learned so much and helped me build a business model back before college.
I think part of that too is at a young age, you're not intimidated. You're not necessarily afraid. And so there's some really cool through lines on that side with your parents and the mentorship, but you not being afraid to go and network and follow your passion and your dreams. And I think those are things, especially now as an adult and as an entrepreneur and business owner, the ability to seek out mentors and constantly learn and be curious, the ability to, go out and also to network and build the sphere of influence and the relationships. To me, those are powerful things that were formed early on, but now obviously carry with you to this day. And so share a little bit of those nuances that have really helped you build success.
Absolutely. If you know me, you know that I'm a huge proponent of mentorship and the value of what comes from that. I think that learning from other people who have gone before you is a key indicator of how you can be successful. And there's no reason to, like you and I were brainstorming earlier, there's no reason to repeat the wheel. So how can you learn from their successes and what can you take there? Obviously, you're going to hit the wall and you're going to fall and you're going to have to learn some of those lessons yourself, but what can you take from their journey? And so I'm a huge proponent and advocate of learning from others along the way. And I took a mentorship class in college. And one of those things I learned was there's certain people in your life for a reason, certain people in your life for a season. And so mentorship doesn't have to be defined as something that's for your whole life. There can be mentors for a season in your life, and then those mentors can change in a different season. And I think that's a really good lens to keep on. I've had different mentors at different seasons in my life, at different phases in my career journey, but then I've also had mentors that have been with me the whole time and ones that I keep going back to that have been with me. We meet every month. And so I think there's different mentors at different phases, but I'm so grateful for the mentors that I've had because they truly have defined my career. They've elevated my career and they've made it much more fruitful than I could have on my own. And so my encouragement to anyone at any phase in their career is I think there's a difference between mentors and sponsors. I think sponsors are people who advocate for you internally within your organization, and they're ones who propel you within your organization to push you further, who are champions for you where you are within your organization and push for you in meetings and advocate for you where you are in your career. And I think mentors are ones who they call you out. They're the ones who say, this is how you're being perceived. You need to adjust this. This is the next phase where you need to be within the next 3 years. How are you planning on hitting that? Let's meet again and discuss that plan. They're the ones who really are deep in there in the weeds with you and are who looking at different lenses with you. And you need both types. So huge proponent of mentors and also mentoring when you get to that season in your career.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome advice too. And just the difference of sponsors versus, mentors and kind of the reason and the season too. Touch on what you do at Ballpoint Business Solutions.
Yes. So it was never a question of if I would be an entrepreneur. It was a question of when I would become an entrepreneur. And so going back to mentors, I had a mentor in my life. I studied entrepreneurship in college and also corporate management. I figured if I studied both ends of the spectrum, I'd figure out what was in the middle. And so my mentor in college, he told me, he said, you need to have a corporate stint before you can become an entrepreneur. And so it was such great wisdom at the time. I didn't realize it. I thought it was punishment in the moment, but it was really great wisdom. And so I'm so grateful I had a great corporate stint to be able to come and now be an entrepreneur. So I was in corporate banking and then corporate consulting, and then now have come off the deep end and decided to launch my own consulting practice, which has been wonderful. So it's Ballpoint Business Solutions, and it is strategy and operations consulting. So if you think interim executive leadership, fractional COO work, my team and I, we serve as an umbrella, if you will, for strategy and operations work. So a project manager comes in and works with a team at an organization, and that one project manager from Ballpoint then has access to a team of Ballpoint consultants. And so that team is a bench of consultants that work within strategy and operations. So going in and solving problems for growth and strategic development for organizations.
Give us one or two recent projects you've worked on. I know some of it has to be top secret, but what are, one or two that you can share?
Absolutely. So, multifaceted type of work that we do. So, some we deal with in kind of that mid-size, high growth type of company, to where we're working with companies that maybe have a CEO and a CFO, but they're needing that COO to come in and build out that position until they can afford that role full time. So think of growing C-suite. They don't have that C-suite yet, but they need those positions. So that's where our team comes in and augments those roles. So we help to fill out that C-suite until they can afford those positions full time. So they're growing and scaling, but they need some help in those roles. So we go in and help to build out that C-suite for them and serve in that interim position for them in fractional space. So I've got a great construction company I'm working with right now, which has been really fun, to where we go in and we're building out their practice with them. They're scaling really fast. And so we're building out their systems and processes, and we're growing with them, and we're looking at what do their long-term plans look like. And we're putting in the right consultants in place. Several are city current members, which is great. So we're putting in the right HR partners, and we're putting in the right marketing partners, and how are we putting in the right people in place to help them get to their long-term goals where they need to be within the next 5 years as they're scaling and growing really quickly. So what are the operational pieces that we're putting in play to move that founder into that right position as more the CEO, and how does he move into that like executive role? So that's one great fun position right now because it's really high growth. Some other great positions are corporate side. So we're there to more augment their team because they have the employees. So they don't necessarily need our team from an employee count perspective, but we can go in and supplement their team because they don't want to pull their team off for a special project. So we can come in and we can serve for 3 months, 6 months, a year to launch a new department, build out a new division, launch a new location, something like that for them. And we can go in and service that and then deliver it back to the organization. And then we're out because we're not on payroll and benefits. But we're there to help support their team that they already have. And so got some great clients in that space as well. So an example there would be the Escape Game is a really fun client. They're a national organization, and they've been a really fun client to get to work with. They're really high growth right now. And so they've been a great client to get to work with. So very different types of organizations that we work with. But I think the mindset that we look for is an organization that is a growing mindset and one that is anticipatory of growth, and how can we build out our strategic plan, systems and processes. How can we make improvements to get to the next place of where we want to be, and how can we bring in a team that can either help service for 3 days, 3 months, 3 years. That's where we come in and just help facilitate that.
I love it. There's so much symbolism too with the escape game because like solving puzzles and we're here to help you solve puzzles. Like that's the problem. My marketing mind already goes to all these symbolisms and
Absolutely,
stories.
absolutely. It's
Um,
so fun. And each project is different. So we're industry agnostic. So we really wanted to build it to where strategy and growth oriented is the type of project that we take on. But we're industry agnostic in the organizations that we work with because there's a bench of consultants that are executives and we plug and play them depending on the project that we're working in. So if we're working with a healthcare company or we're working with an construction company or we're working with a finance company, we pull the right consultant from the bench to then go and work within their niche specialty. So as long as we know we're very defined in what we don't do. We're not finance, we're not accounting, we're not attorneys. We're very defined in the niche that we're working with, which is strategy and growth and operations. And then we plug and play the right consultant based on their niche within their industry.
Talk about your growth because I think this is something that will carry over for others when you talk about balancing delegation with networking and growing your own business and serving in the community, serving on boards. You're heavily involved with nonprofits. So talk about your growth, your development as a leader and how you've been able to balance a lot of these dynamics with your own growth for your organization.
Absolutely. So I think to whom much is given, much is expected. And I think that goes into power of the good. I think that being involved in the community is so important. I think it's a great way. I think it's multifaceted. I think it's a great way to give back. I think it's a great way to connect with others. I think it's a great way to learn what is happening in the world around you, both from a business perspective, but also from a community perspective, what the needs are. So I think it's critical to be involved, especially as a business leader, but just as an individual, I think it's critical to be plugged in and engaged. I talk to individuals about this all the time when they're moving cities or when they're moving jobs and or trying to grow within their career. I think the best way to do that and to show initiative is to plug into the community first, and then you're getting to see, you're getting to meet, you're getting to do through your nonprofit service. So I'm grateful. In Middle Tennessee, we have a wonderful program called the Young Leaders Council. And so it's a leadership development program that takes individuals aged 25 to 40 through a leadership training program on how to effectively serve on a nonprofit board. So your fiduciary responsibility, your legal responsibility, all of the things you need to know on how to be effective as a nonprofit leader, not just serving for a resume booster. And so that I did right out of graduate school. And I'm so grateful I did that very early in my career because it really taught me how to be an impactful leader in the community. And where I could serve and how to identify those areas of service. And so I encourage anyone starting out in their kind of philanthropic journey to do something similar in nature. It can be a community-based program. It can be any type of leadership program, but I feel like it gives you that confidence and how to effectively serve, knowing that, okay, when you make that vote, you are legally responsible for that vote. So you better have read those minutes before you go in, and you better have looked at those financials because if something goes wrong, you are financially liable. So you do need your insurance coverage, so there are things that you need to do. It's not just willy-nilly service. There really is an element of responsibility that comes along with that. Yes, volunteer, yes, engage, and other levels. It doesn't all have to be a huge commitment of that caliber, but it does grow into that. And so make sure you know what you're doing and where to commit and where to engage. But if you do it well.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, all of that, serving in the community, being just a volunteer, you're surrounding yourself with others who care about the community. They care about others. They're going to care about you and your growth and development. So back to mentorship, back to sphere of influence and networking and relationship building, connectivity in the community. All of that leads to beautiful things, and you refine your leadership. You open up your own heart and empathy and all of those things that come along with it. It's the service element of it is such a powerful piece. And that's where servant leadership, I mean, so many of your amazing leaders that people look up to, they're all servant leaders who humble themselves and go out and volunteer and serve on board. So those community connections to me really are so critically important, not only to you personally, but professionally as well.
Oh,
You have
absolutely.
a rare vantage point serving and working with all these different industries and different companies. What's one or two things that you see as trends? And those can be challenges and opportunities, but What are some things that when you look around at the clients that you're working with and these projects, these important growth projects, what are two similarities, one or two trends that you see right now going on?
I think to your point, we were kind of talking about earlier, I think, and this ties in well with City Current of Power the Good. I think so many organizations are wanting to engage in the community, and I think they're wanting to find their footing of how to do good. And I think that's a great thing in the markets where City Current is and the markets where I'm serving is trying to identify ways to make a strong business impact, but also trying to make a community impact and where those two combine and align. And I think to your point, I think we see that through the board member service of the executives that we're working with and the individuals that they're putting their team members and having them plug in and engage and the leadership programs where they're sponsoring. And I think that alignment, I think we're seeing a lot of that of how can we partner business and community together to power the good to do well in the community and engage. So I think that's a really positive thing. I think we're also seeing a couple trends are how can we I think we're seeing a lot of businesses that are growing, which is really exciting. At least that's from the vantage point that I'm in. My world is I'm seeing a lot of growth, which is more of there have been some really high growth businesses that are then coming in and tightening up operations. So that's kind of the world that I'm in. So that's the trends that I'm seeing is how do we take the high growth that we're experiencing and then going back in and kind of tightening those operations so that we're sustainable over the course of the long term. So for me, that's the trend bubble I'm living in at the moment is what do we go back and do so that we can build those systems and processes that tighten the ship a little bit to make us sustainable in the long term for long-term growth and kind of planning that future look of strategic building for sustainability down the road. So experiencing some high growth, which is really exciting to see in the business world, and then planning for that down the road.
Yeah, I think both of those are, to me, really exciting because one, just the focus on community, the power of the connection there and the service and what that affords for their team and their business. And then to your point, you have to think differently. You have to operate differently as you're scaling and growing. If you're, growing your team, your multiple markets, like you have to do things different operationally. And so the fact, like you said, of buttoning those up and tightening those up so that you can continue to growth, well, that leads to more growth in different communities, more jobs, more opportunities. So I think all of that is good news to share indeed. So let's go ahead and wrap up with website, contact information. Where do we go to carry this conversation forward? Where do we go to learn more about Ballpoint Business Solutions?
Absolutely. Reach out to me on my website is www.ballpointbusiness.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn. My personal LinkedIn is Sydney Ball. My business LinkedIn is Ballpoint Business Solutions, or Instagram or Facebook. So Instagram is Ballpoint Business and then Facebook is Ballpoint Business Solutions. So reach out to me any of those ways. I'm easily accessible and look forward to a conversation.
I love it. Well, Sydney, thank you for all you and your amazing team do to power the good. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. Great conversation.
Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services is proud to power the City Current Show. We're a people-first company that protects what matters most, the families, businesses, and trailblazers that keep our community going. As one of the nation's top independent insurance firms, Higginbotham is a single-source solution for business insurance, employee benefits, HR services, and personal insurance that's customized for you. We're here to serve you, the people you care about, and your community. Call 866-377-1959 or visit higginbotham.com.